Welcome, creative friends. Today I'm going to show you how I made these stones out of fireplace ashes. I'm using wax paper and ashes. These ashes are black because we have a pellet stove. So if you have wood ashes, they're going to be gray, and I really didn't try them to see what color they would turn out when I'm done. I might do that later and just show you in another video how it turned out. And I need to use also thin velocity super glue. Now I'm just going to be spreading out the wax paper and taping it down. Oops, that's the last of my wax paper. And I'm just going to try one for the beginning to see if my idea would work. I'm trying to bunch it up into the size of a rock that I want and flattening out a little bit. Not a lot. It's like almost 2 millimeters, and you really need to wear a gas mask and goggles. If you notice, there's a lot of fumes that come out. I first wore the fabric, mask, and I could smell everything. So I used my gas mask, and that helped. But then I noticed my eyes are stinging and burning from that smoke. So you need to wear both goggles, and it's better to do it outside. But when I was making this, it was winter time, and I couldn't go outside. I had the windows open, I had a fan working, and I had my mask and my goggles on, and then I left the room for half an hour after I was done, just to make sure there were no more fumes. Here I'm just flattening them after I bunch them up the way I want. And you can see how much fume comes out. Now I'm just checking them to see if they are set, and yes, they are. And I'm trying to take them off of the paper, but I noticed that the wax paper is ripping off. And a little bit messy. Now the white that's on the edges of the rocks, that's super glue. That's not the wax paper. But that'll easily be painted if you want to paint it, or when you do your grouting, then it will disappear and you won't see it. I like how there's, those holes and textures. It really makes it look like real rocks. Now, I ran out of, wax paper, and I had to read and do some research on what super glue doesn't stick to, and it turned out to be oil. So I'm trying baby oil here and just spreading it over A4 printer paper. I made sure that I coated it from both sides. And then I noticed that it became staticky. I don't know why. It didn't happen with the wax paper, but the minute I, start pouring the ashes, like static, they start spreading out. So here I'm trying to see if I can pull it out without ripping the paper, and it worked much better. So from now on, oil on papers, no wax paper. It barely ripped. I'm just removing the extra super glue. And here I'm positioning them randomly, just, you know, like a puzzle. Put this rock here, that rock there, see what fits. And I'm just sticking them on or gluing them on with PVA glue. I know you're gonna say you didn't show us how I made the board or the flooring. That's gonna be in the next video. I messed up a little bit and started working on a couple of projects all at the same time. And then I realized, oh, that's gonna be a little bit hard to edit. So here, the steps turned out to be now lower than my flooring. And there were gaps. So I'm filling the gaps with some ash, and then I'm going to be leveling that step with my ash stones. I'm just spreading it out carefully. I did have a little accident when I sneezed and a lot of the ash went everywhere, so be careful. I'm just using a small dry brush to push the ash inside where I want it and not go where it's not supposed to go. I think I used for this project 2/3 of that glue. Now I'm trying cooking oil. And I want to make tiles this time, like bricks or tiles. So I'm spreading it out all over the paper. You know, this is all trial and error. So where I made my errors, you can prevent those from happening to you. Trying to make it as flat as possible. And I filled it with super glue. And what happened next was not good. My mat started curling up from the sides. The glue seeped between the tape and the paper and got stuck on my mat. It was a mess. So maybe putting some plastic or something. I'm still thinking about what I should be putting under the paper, so if it does seep out, it won't, you know, ruin my project or my mat. I sprayed it with alcohol. I put hot water. I tried many things and nothing seemed to work. Scraping it off definitely didn't work. So in the end, I gave up and just flipped my board. I'm not going to bother myself anymore. And I tried cutting it with the scissors because I didn't make them that thick. I think it was 1 millimeter maybe thick. And it made perfect squares or rectangles like bricks. So that's a second use that we can use this ash with. Now my fingers were all mucky with the glue. And it's very hard to remove super glue from your fingers. So I'm dipping them in water and then in salt, and just kept on doing this for 5 minutes. A little bit of water, a little bit of salt, until I got rid of all the glue. And here's my hands after I cleaned them and washed them, and there's barely any glue left. And this is how they look after I put the grout. Next week you're gonna see what kind of grout I used. See you next week. Bye.